This is day 3 of the 30 days of strengthening your marriage. And let's talk about revealing that comes before the healing. That's right, revealing comes before the healing, and we all need healing in our lives. If we don't own and admit that we need healing in our lives, there probably won't be much progress. And when there's not healing, this really affects our marriage. So often it's said, hurt people hurt people. And when we've received some mistreatment, it's easy to just dish it out and keep the cycle going. Sadly, we sometimes hurt the people that we love the most. And we show a side of ourselves around the people that we're actually closest to in ways that we wouldn't treat other people. So how do we walk through the healing process? First, I think you need to acknowledge that it's so easy to hurt each other. This could be through your attitude, through your nonverbals, through things you do, things you say, but it can also be things you don't do and you don't say. There's commission, which means things you commit, but then there's omission, which means things you leave out. All these can build up hurt, and it can be far more than you realize in a marriage. There's both intentional stuff we do, and there's unintentional stuff that we do. So where's the healing? Let's shift to the hope. First of all, when you hurt each other, it's important to forgive each other that day, not let things linger. It's also important to be the first to apologize. Don't be conditional and say, well, if that other person apologizes, if your spouse apologizes, then maybe I'll apologize. No, be proactive. Love takes initiative. So look to apologize first. And even if you only have 10% of the responsibility, in your mind, maybe there's always only 10% that's yours, but own your 10% 100%. Whatever you've done to contribute to the mess, just own it. And as you own it, that'll bring healing. Now, there also might be some healing that's needed from things that happened before the marriage begins. My parents were divorced when I was 7 years old. There's so much trauma with divorce, and it's hard to even put it all into words, but let me try to point out a couple different aspects. For me, there was trauma in seeing conflict resolution that was not healthy. As I considered my own marriage, that was a big consideration. What is conflict resolution going to look like? Deep inside, there was a fear for me as I got married that what would happen if my marriage ends in divorce? And so I had to work through that fear as well. And I also needed to forgive. And that didn't happen till much later in my life that I truly forgave because of the way the divorce affected me. So those are just a couple of pieces, but trust me, oftentimes in marriage, the way that you've seen marriage modeled or your relationship with your parents, it can get projected onto your spouse. And if there's not a deep healing, then a trap in a cycle can continue. So where does the healing come? Healing so often comes from positive relationships. Positive relationships are a huge instrument for healing in our lives. Also, the choice to forgive. Now, it's deeper part of my story, but when I received love from God for the first time as a young adult, I suddenly had love and forgiveness for other people I never had. But we need to receive love. Receive love from the people around you. Enjoy healthy relationships. Forgive other people. And be kind. And own our stuff when we need to apologize. Those are some talking points that now you can dive into deeper with your discussion. But be honest with each other. What part of your life has brought the most trauma? How have you experienced healing? And how can you walk through more healing together? The truth is, in our lives, again, our spouse is going to be one of the primary instruments for healing in our lives. And it's a great privilege to come alongside of your husband or your wife and be part of that healing process. So let's support each other and let's dive in a little deeper.